Do you have conversations about systemic racism, about police brutality, about how you think, how she was raised, how you were raised,
how your kids are going to show up,
how you'll teach your kids about identity, all these things. And they will literally tell me, we have chosen not to discuss it in depth because we know it's a touchy subject and there's a lot of emotions around it. So to preserve our relationship and marriage, we are choosing not to discuss these topics. And for me, y'all, I just need a minute because that is mind blowing. No, let's go there.
I feel like a really bad mom.
Quote unquote, I'm tired of people in my race, so I need to find me somebody white. This is how I knew that Brian
Don't do it.
was going to be a great physical partner.
Don't tell them. Hey everyone, welcome to the Let's Get Deep podcast, where we talk about things in our lives that most people just would never.
Never.
And today, Lexi has something on her heart to share with the people that I am very excited about because it's about time we talk about this.
I think it's about time we need to, because I think we've been kind of tiptoeing around it. So let's get into it.
I don't know if we tiptoe. We're not really the type of people to tiptoe.
No, we're not. But it's something that I think we try to be sensitive because honestly, we know a lot of people that feel this way. But, let's get into it.
We are going to do our very best today to be understanding, careful with our words, but also very pointed and very transparent about how we feel about this topic.
Yes. We get a lot of comments on social media, and a lot of them are, oh my gosh, I want to be with a white man. Oh my goodness, you are exactly the kind of relationship I want. I'm tired of people in my race. And I feel like I need what they call the pasta and lobster. They need they need all of those things, right? And I am starting to realize why I knew people have issues with that. I have an issue with that. But I didn't realize how many people are like that. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to believe that more people are like that than people like us.
We want to say this. We love our community. We love the people that have shown support, who are about us, who are in their own way trying to compliment us. And we appreciate that. However, we will never shy away from the fact that we think that there are sometimes skewed perspectives of our relationship and why we are together, and then how they're trying to translate our relationship into their own lives. And we're here to correct some of those things in love and with the opportunity of trying to get to a good understanding of how you and I actually think. Because I don't want anyone to ever fall in love with a false perception of who we are or how we think.
And I would say we get noticed in different areas a lot. And what I have experienced being around people that are also in interethnic relationships, they would celebrate the fact like, oh, kudos for you going white.
Wow.
I'm sorry?
Wow.
No. What? So I'm like, I personally see that as like, or I would say we both see that as pure disrespect. Pure disrespect.
And with the comments on social media, with the comments that we've had in real life from people we know, from people we just met, from strangers, just all around, I think what we have realized from these conversations is that people are trying to get in relationships with other ethnicities for what seems to us the wrong reasons.
I would personally say that what I've experienced is you don't like you, quote unquote, I'm tired of people in my race, so I need to find me somebody white. Or, well, let's get into that one later.
I've seen it on both sides. So let's just stay on that side real quick.
And here's the thing. The bad thing is that people look at us and think that we are also that. We are also people that did not like our race. So we decided, like, I was searching out a white guy. I was always looking for a white guy, which wasn't the case at all. And here's the thing. There are issues being in the same race. You're in a couple with the same race, as well as issues being in somebody, and I don't even like to say race. I will say in different ethnicities, there are issues with you being in relationship with somebody of the same ethnicity and somebody that is of a different ethnicity. I don't see Like, I know that there are differences. I know that there's issues, but to say that it is easier for me to be with a white man and you've never been with one is a little wild to me.
I was actually going to ask you the question. I might be jumping ahead here, but do you think that it would have been easier for you to be with a black man than me?
I think that it would be, I don't think that it would be easier. I think that every ethnicity, every culture has their own personal issues. The things that black on black love have to worry about, we don't have to worry about because I'm with you. And then the things that were even in this conversation right now, being mindful of what you say versus what I say, because the truth be told, you can't say everything that may be true, but can't hear from your mouth. It could be anything. Like if I make a joke, you can't make a joke, but I can make a joke. And so being in a relationship and being mindful, like, nah, you shouldn't say that. So, I can say that, but no, you can't say that.
It's not that I disagree with you, but I do think that, to your point, there are a number of legitimately difficult things that we have to overcome being in an interethnic relationship that you would not have had to overcome being in a black love relationship. But to your point, there's different issues that you would have had to overcome. But it is not easy. We'll just say that. It was not easy.
No, absolutely.
I don't think
it's easy on either one. It's not easy on either one.
Now in our lives, we're on the same page with just about every single conversation and topic that comes up because we've done the work to work through those things.
Yeah.
But it is not easy. And I think people have this perception that it's a conversation that either doesn't come up or you guys are just on the same page or they just don't care about it.
Well, that's because that's what we see on social media.
What do you mean?
We see so many relationships that don't talk about race. If anything, they make fun of the fact they're in an interethnic relationship. So they're like, and we do a little bit of that, but honestly, we try not to make that the biggest part of our channel.
We make fun of how people perceive us. We make fun of the difficult things that we've had to endure socially from a social dynamic and perspective, but we don't make fun of the fact that we're together or...
I think that people make fun of like, oh, I'm going to teach him how to hustle. I'm going to teach...
okay, I get you.
I'm going to teach him some of the black lingo. I will say it's like you're changing a culture. Like you're trying to make him black. And the truth be told, we see a lot of that on social media. And a lot of people that don't know Brian assumes that, right? They assume that of you.
It wasn't just you're in a relationship now you're going to try to make me into some image of what you want. Right.
And appreciating who you are, right? Because there are things like, first of all, my man can dress. Let's just...
Now you did help me with that.
But I'm saying, yeah, I did.
But
I wasn't trying to make you dress black. I was just trying to make you dress fashionable. And my definition of fashion wasn't like, oh, you need to be wearing what the stereotypical black man should be wearing. I didn't want you to be black. I wanted you to be who you are.
And that's okay. Let me pause here because that is interesting. A lot of people that I've realized will say things to me, and they do so in an endearing way, in a complimentary way, of like, now you know you black. You're like, you ain't white. You don't have any white in you.
I mean,
it
should be told, baby. You got some seasoning.
No, I got some seasoning.
And it's respected. It's
absolutely,
respected.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. But at the same time, I don't ever want it to be thought of that that's what I'm trying to be. Like in an inorganic, unnatural way. I'm trying to be someone who I'm not. Who I am is a reflection of who I want to be, regardless of the people around me.
Yeah.
There is still plenty of stereotypical things that I do as a white male. And that is walking outside in the winter with no clothes on. It's going hiking. It's doing dangerous things, jumping off cliffs. I love that stuff. That is all me. All day. I do season my chicken. I do make sure that, I know how to dance. But
Facts. But I think the problem is a lot of times if you don't know us, then you are assuming what you see on social media. And that's the problem is we see so much of this. There is a stereotypical interethnic relationship that is on social media.
So describe what that means to you.
that to me,
What does that look like?
honestly, there is a stereo. Okay, let's be real. A black and a white, say a black person and white person. Usually, what we see on social media is that the white person is very timid, very shy. And when I mean shy, I mean like just kind of going with what the black person does.
Yeah, not submissive, but like
Submissive. Like, what do you need?
submissive.
Especially, and I will say what I have seen on social media is when it's a white woman and a black woman and a white guy, we see the white guy very like, I'll do whatever you want. I'll, I want to learn your language. I want to learn this. I want to learn that. And here's the thing. There is beauty. There's this level of beauty in that, but there's also like, so y'all don't talk about nothing?
So I am not the man that just rolls over. I'm not the man that
That's the
just
word.
wants to please you regardless of whatever it is you want. That's what you get, regardless of how I feel, regardless of how that makes me feel.
Yeah.
We have legitimate conversations to get on the same page. I am not afraid to express my feelings. I'm not afraid to tell you how I feel. I'm not afraid to disagree with you. I'm not afraid to be a man and be leading you and tell you, I don't believe that's correct. I think we need to go this direction. So I don't feel that in that regard, I fit the stereotype. And I don't feel you fit the stereotype there. We legitimately come together and have difficult conversations. We do our very best to get on the same page. And that sometimes means going back and forth. That means asking deeper questions, understanding one another. And what I'm afraid of is that a lot of the interethnic couples that we have seen, and when I mean a lot, I mean the large majority of interethnic couples do not have these conversations.
Yeah.
They do not talk about racial inequalities. They don't talk about systemic racism. They don't talk about the white person in the relationship's subconscious bias and judgments that they've made and stereotypes that they hold in their heart. They don't talk about those things and do the work to extract truth from their biases.
Yeah. And the truth be told is that, and I was telling somebody this the other day, is some interethnic relationships are in the relationships for the wrong reasons. And I say that because when we ask people, I'm being honest, when you know this, babe, when we have asked people why they, are with a black woman or a black man, it gets cringe.
Cringy.
It's like, man, I just love the way black women look. I love their attitude. I love that they're quote unquote spicy.
Ugh.
And I'm like, are you serious? It's giving, I'm being honest, it gives exotic. And I don't like that. I do not like that. That bothers me. To say like, I just never really liked white girls. Like if it was a white guy, they're like, I never really liked white girls. First of all, I think that to stereotype a whole race, a whole ethnicity is very wild to me. That's why we try to be as careful as we are when we say, I stereotypically don't do this. I stereotypically don't do that. We make a little bit of jokes, but to make a whole, you have chosen a relationship based off of a stereotype of a race.
You're searching for a stereotype.
Yeah. Now, babe, question.
What? Uh-oh. What? Why are you looking at me like that?
Do you think that it's wrong to do that, to search out a race for a certain reason?
I do. I think that's weird.
I think it's very weird.
It's weird.
But I know that you've experienced that.
Yes. With people around me, people that I know, people that I don't know, people we've talked to. Like, again, unfortunately, I don't want to say it's the majority, but I almost feel like it's the majority of people who have like made a decision to search outside of their culture.
Yeah. And from our experience, I want to make that clear. From what we've experienced, it feels like that.
And not just our circles, social media too.
Yes.
We're talking about, I don't even know how many comments at this point. Probably literally thousands of people have either DM'd us or commented on our videos saying, I want to be with a white person, or I want to be with a black woman, or whatever.
And even have, babe, even have told us spiritual reasons why they want to date outside of the race.
And I just have so many questions.
Well,
I
what
don't
do you
want to
think?
say I want to make a judgment on that. I don't ever want to be in a position, humbly, to say that God didn't say that to someone. And I say that knowing that you and I, a part of our being together has naturally caused conversation, has naturally caused us to discuss this topic when very few other people are willing to, and be, I don't want to call it a champion of it, but being a champion of racial relations, right?
Yeah.
And coming together and understanding one another and doing the work that it requires to understand one another. I don't know how to like put that into words articulately, because again, I want to be so careful when I say that God didn't say. That is a very heavy word.
Yes.
And I don't ever want to be in a position where I misjudge God's word to someone.
Yeah,
Because he didn't talk to me about
especially for other people.
He
But
didn't talk to me,
I
but-
will say that to me, that thought process is extremely limiting from what I know of God.
Yeah.
If you are supposed to bridge the gap, I truly believe that, especially in this world today, maybe if you're talking about back then, you know, like that was bridging the gap years ago, but you just marrying a person outside of your race, to me, isn't enough. I feel like if you feel like that you want to talk about things, do have a conversation, start a podcast, start a YouTube channel, start an Instagram where that is your goal. But to think that you just marrying somebody outside of your race is very limiting thinking. And honestly, a lot of people probably have more of a connotation of you guys just don't talk about issues.
Most people are not having these conversations. I legitimately have straight up asked a number of couples, white male, black woman, do you have conversations about systemic racism, about police brutality, about how you think, how she thinks, how she was raised, how you were raised,
How your kids are going to show up,
how you'll
are
teach
gonna show
your
up.
kids about identity, all these things. Have you guys had these conversations? And when I tell you the majority are like, well, we talk about it, but it's real light. And they will literally tell me, we have chosen not to discuss it in depth because we know it's a touchy subject and there's a lot of emotions around it. So to preserve our relationship and marriage, we are choosing not to discuss these topics. And for me, y'all, I just need a minute because that is mind-blowing.
That's
to
mind-blowing.
me. And that is legitimately scary when you think about the dynamics of what marriage entails. You are making a conscious decision to forego a conversation because you know it's touchy, but it also is deeply rooted in your psyche and the way that you operate and look at one another.
Yeah.
That is, I don't want to say crazy because we teach Asa not to say crazy. That is wild to me.
I think also what is hard for people to do is realize that we are coming from a different culture. I think the thought of like, even though we don't see race, I saw
we don't say that.
No, people say that. We don't say that. I want to make that clear.
Wait a minute.
We don't say that.
We don't say
But
that.
I saw a video with Charlemagne and Candace Owens. They were asking Candace Owens questions about, if you're really for the culture, why are you with the white man, which I think is ridiculous. But one of the things that she said is like, you know, I just see my husband as my husband. Like, I don't really recognize that he's white. Like, I mean, to think about that. And I want to get more clarity on it, but I've heard so many people say, like, I don't even notice that he's white, or I don't even notice that she's black. I just see her for her. And I think that's the new, like, people don't want to say, I don't see color, but that is the new, I don't see color.
It is. It absolutely is. And even Christians can make the excuse. I don't want to say excuse. Careful with my words. Christians can make the point that, well, we're all of a race in heaven, right? So I don't see color because I see that first. And absolutely, I believe that the kingdom family supersedes color. It supersedes your ethnicity and your culture. But can we not pretend that God didn't specifically design us the way that he did on purpose? He created cultures. He created differences. He created different skin tones for a reason.
Do you think
noticed.
Do you think he originally created skin tones, or do you think that was from that it was after the fall and it divided division?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I get deep a little bit.
Let's get deep.
But do you think were we all the same, or do you think that because of the fall we all separated and now we're all different races and cultures?
I will say this. I will happily admit when I don't have a strong opinion about something. I don't know if I'm as well researched in that particular piece to make a strong, bold claim on how I
Curious to
feel
know
about
what y'all
it.
think about
But
that.
I can see how people would say at the Tower of Babel when they were building the tower and he separated them into different groupings with different languages and they spread out across the world.
That's what I'm
Because of
thinking
that,
about.
I could see where you can make the argument that they were one race, culture, etc., and then spread out and divided because of that moment. However, I could also see where there are just certain natural effects of time and location and region and all of those things that cause hair texture to be different, that cause skin tone to be different.
Yeah.
And over time, those things have developed. I can see where that is just a natural environmental shift that takes place in a culture and that could be God ordained. So I can see both sides, but I think the reality is to think that you do not notice. When you say, I don't see color, you're saying that I don't notice your culture. I don't notice your experience. I don't notice who you are and what characteristics also are part of your identity, because those things are a part of your identity.
Yeah.
It's a part of who you are. And I don't think people mean it in a intentionally
You're trying to
negative
say it
way.
in a beautiful way.
You're trying to be beautiful about it, but we just believe it's wrong.
And I think that there is beauty in recognizing each other's culture.
Yes.
And being able to discuss the hardships of the fact that I am what people would call a low minority. I am a woman and I am Black. When you are a high majority, quote unquote, that means that you are white and you are male. For us not to be able to have conversations, or I will say this, for us to be able to have conversation, that's what creates the beauty of us being together, is that through it all, through the history, through the trauma, through everything that is going on in our day-to-day lives, that shows that we are different, and yet we are still trying to hold on. We're still trying to have conversations, and we're still trying to connect and bring our kids together. All of those things show beauty, not separation.
You have to be able to recognize the differences in one another and appreciate the differences. That's the thing. It's almost as if you say that we're different, that you can't appreciate the differences. I appreciate the differences that you, your culture, your background, your history, the way you think brings into our relationship, because it helps mold and amplify my viewpoints and shift them and adjust them and bring in different components that makes it beautiful. So to deny those things and say, I'm choosing not to recognize and appreciate those things feels a little disrespectful to me.
Yeah. And to completely deny that you're white and deny that I'm Black. I'm like, or we just never talk about it. We're just like, oh, we just love. First of all, love's not enough for many things. So let's just go there. But I am appreciative for us being able to have the conversation and not choosing each other because of our culture.
Right. So, I'm just going to go ahead and say this, that we know that we're deep. Clearly, our podcast is called Let's Get Deep. So we know that we think about things sometimes at a much deeper level than most couples will. And that's fair and that's acceptable. But I'm going to say this, and I want to make it very clear to everyone. I'm going to ask you a question. Clearly, by me asking the question the way I'm asking it, I already have my answer, but I want to hear yours.
What?
Do you think that you can be married to a Black woman and still be racist?
Absolutely.
Talk about it. Get close to the mic and talk about it.
Brian is
with your
so serious about these mics.
You got to be close to the mic, otherwise it doesn't sound like a podcast.
I just want to give a side thing that Brian cares about these mics. Heavy, okay?
I have invested into these mics.
Do you think that...
Can you be married for years with a Black woman and still be racist?
Absolutely.
Explain.
Because of what we talked about, I really feel that because you don't have the conversation, then you're not asking the right questions, you end up being with someone that actually has a lot of biases and you don't even realize it because you don't talk about it. And you let little conversations slide, little jokes,
comments,
little keying, because we've seen it, and it's like, oh, I don't, he's just playing, or he's just talking. He's just, oh, he didn't mean that. Oh, when I talked to him, he just said sorry and doesn't really get into it.
We say sorry, move on.
We say sorry. Oh, I didn't mean that. No. I wasn't talking about you.
No.
Ooh, that one. I wasn't talking about you.
It's the same thing. And I don't know why people think that you cannot be racist and married, but it's the same thing as all these white people out here saying, well, I can't be racist. I have a black friend.
Yes.
I know a black person. Mm-hmm. He's really cool. I like him. We have good conversation. He's my friend. Maybe you even went to war together. Maybe you were in the army together and you're brothers. We were on the front line.
Yeah.
I understand that, but that does not change your perspective on social standing,
yes,
social equalities, how the system is rigged against black people. It does not change your perspectives of, are you scared or intimidated of a black person who looks a certain way or walks a certain way? It doesn't change your behaviors and mental models just because you have spent time with a person if you choose not to talk about that thing. Facts. Just as much as you cannot possibly have intimacy. It's like being in the now. Okay, Lexi says I'm horrible with analogies, but I'm gonna try one
Hold
anyway.
on, let's see if it works.
I'm gonna try one anyway. It's like being in the bedroom with your spouse for 3 years, but never actually having intimacy, never actually coming together. You have not developed intimacy in your relationship until you come together and go to that next level, right? Mm-hmm. Just being in the room next to someone for years doesn't mean you're intimate.
Yeah.
Just being in relationship with someone, if you're choosing not to talk about deep things, hurtful things potentially, things that you identify with and care about, choosing not to have those conversations creates a gap of intimacy.
Yeah. I can't imagine how many people or how many couples did not talk about Trayvon Martin.
Whew. Yeesh.
Mike Brown, Eric Gardner, George Floyd. How many couples just let that conversation go? Mm-hmm. I cannot imagine.
And can you imagine having a conversation that is having an event happen or a consistent series of events happen that is so criminal, so hurtful, so hate-filled, and you just bypass the conversation?
You just bypass the conversation.
Now, I do understand that there are some people on both sides that just don't care as much about their culture, that don't like. I've literally heard people on both sides. I don't really care about my history. I don't really care about culture. Do you think that's wrong, or do you think that's okay?
Honestly, my first feeling is hurtful, and I think that it's different for different cultures.
I do. I agree.
But for my culture, that's hurtful. The stuff that our culture has gone through, the stuff that our ancestors went through, like, for you to just say you don't care, to me, dang, like that, I personally, that I would never.
And we don't.
Go ahead.
You don't want to broad brush that and put that on someone else, but it's almost like because of how you think, it's hard to imagine why.
Why? And I think, and I'm open to hearing. I'm very like understanding. But to me, like, because of how much I respect my ancestors and the people that were before me and just what they did to get through it. Mm-hmm. And also the brainwashing that has happened over the years and just stuff. It's been tough. And yet somehow they got up every day. Somehow they survived to create me. I think, to me, that is worth caring about the culture. I
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's heavy.
It's heavy. They got heavy.
And to bypass that conversation, it does feel like there's a level of disrespect. There's a level of, I can't imagine someone's great grandma, after going through slavery, coming back and seeing their great granddaughter go, I don't care. That's not my life,
Wow.
right? I choose to ignore it. Ignore that?
Right. Honestly, I think that is a level of people trying to keep
Suppressing it.
suppressing. I just can't, because it's like it's too much to bear. And there are people which I can understand, I can empathize that at this point maybe you just don't want to talk about it anymore. Maybe it's just too much. I get that. Maybe you can't continue.
That.
Yeah, I understand that. Like you can't you don't want to have it in the forefront of your mind. I know people that legit like, of course you're done with maybe I'm a little done with the slave movies. I'm kind of done with,
I get that for sure.
like I get those things, and maybe they just don't want to keep it. But to say that you just casually just don't care, I think that's pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, people, because the reality is there is trauma in your history. There's trauma in Black history.
Absolutely. It's in our, they said it has stayed in our genes.
And there's the reality of people handle trauma differently. So even as I'm talking through this, it's almost like I do have great empathy for people who subconsciously or consciously make the decision to not care, because people handle trauma differently. And if there was trauma, some people, in an effort to never feel that hurt and pain again, will push it to the side as far as they can go. And even if they themselves did not experience that trauma is still passed down.
Yeah.
To from a spiritual perspective, from a gene perspective, I do believe that. So I think you said something earlier that I wanted to touch on, and it's that something that I know that you've gone through. There's a lot of comments that people have said about us. There's a lot of hate-filled comments, a lot of positive comments as well about this topic in particular. Most of them roll off our backs. Most of them at this point, we just whatever. But I know the one that has hurt you was the one where you have received a healthy amount of people in the Black community who have told you that you cannot represent them anymore. Who've said that you no longer carry a voice for the Black community or Black people because you are now with me. And being with me now nullifies and silences your voice as a Black woman. How do you feel about that?
Man, I was like, sheesh, that almost is making me emotional.
That's the one that hurts.
Yeah, that's hurtful. And I think it's because it takes away from I'm looking at my skin. I'm like, I am Black. I went through school where people called me names and told me like I was too dark where they couldn't see. I was a monkey. If you turn off the lights, you can't see me. And I've heard that from Black people and white people. And to almost have this come full circle where now Black people and white people are now telling me, one, I'm too Black, and then the other side saying that I'm not Black anymore, not even Black enough. Like, just take away her Blackness because I am with a white guy where I have fought. And not to say you should, and not to say you need to, but for me, I have fought to help people. And when I mean people, all different races, to not even understand, because I don't think you can fully understand, but empathize Black culture.
And advocate for it.
I wasn't the one that was saying that I don't care about my Blackness. I wasn't the one that was saying that I don't care about my Black culture. I wasn't the one ignoring jokes that white people would say. I was the one that was fighting back. I was the one that got beat up because of that. Even in school, I was the one that was going in the trenches to fight and to stand up for myself all of these years. And then because I am with a white person, that is now null and void. Everything that I did, everything that I stood up for, all the jokes that were made about me, that's hurtful. And it sucks, because here is where empathy comes in. It sucks because I understand why you're mad. I understand why this is upsetting. I'm not mad at you. I'm hurt because of how you feel about me. But being around white people after everything is hard. It's hard for
honest.
people. I'm not so to see a black woman with a white man, I could see how that brings up trauma. I could see how that makes you angry. I can understand it and I empathize with it. So there can be two emotions in that, and those are my two.
And people don't realize that you are for the culture. You push an agenda forward to help black people. You care about their experience. You care about the hurt, the pain, all of those things. And you have championed, like you said, to the white community. You have fought hard to help people understand and get a better sense. Not just the white community, my family, me. Trayvon Martin was very difficult for us.
Yeah.
We had some extremely hard conversations because if y'all don't know, Trayvon Martin happened when we were dating. We almost broke up because of it.
Yeah.
Because we said we refuse to get married and not be on the same page with this conversation because this is going to cause too much pain in our relationship if we don't get on the same page. And it took time. It took time, work, painful conversations to get to that point. But it's hurtful when you've gone through all that and say that you don't have a voice anymore. When all you have been doing is giving a voice to the black community.
Yeah.
Because
and I want to make it clear. Oh, go ahead. I just want to make it clear that I don't feel that black people need to do that. Yeah. I don't feel that I want to make that very clear. I did those things because I love the people that I was around. And I didn't want to be that stereotypical girl that's with a white guy that is, we just don't talk about it. We're doing this podcast because we care. I care.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it, and I don't want people to go in the next dating relationship or they're already in a relationship and not talk about it because that is hurting our country. That is hurting our nation. That is hurting our relationships.
And the reality is you have taken on a lot of heat to help white people. It's taken a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. It's caused some trauma in your life from my extended family, from just the community in general. And people, when they look at you and don't know your story, all they see is a black girl who sold out. All they see is a black girl sleeping with her colonizer, right? Like that's what they say. And that's what they see because they don't know the reasons why. They assume the mentality that you have. And being on social media, that is difficult. That's difficult when people don't know the truth. No matter how much you say it, it's almost as if we're doing this podcast and this podcast is only going to reach a percentage of people who actually are listening to what we're saying. Because after we walk away from this, there are still going to be people who think, nah, she's still sold out.
Yeah, at the end of the day, and it's okay. Here's the thing. The difference between me and people that are, because I've met people that are trying to prove their blackness. I'm not going to prove. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I came from this. I came from that. You see, I didn't mention any of those things. Although I am from 313. But
and from not a good part either.
But I didn't when you talk about why, I'm not talking about the streets. I'm not talking about the hood. I'm not talking about where I came from. Those are true. What I am talking about is the history of who I am as a black woman, that I am recognized as a black woman day to day. That is what matters. And being in an interethnic relationship is not easy. So I know we interchange race because we try to make people comfortable sometimes, but we like to say ethnicities, culture versus race, because I do believe that there's only one race. But that is what I try to represent. And again, I don't try to just fight for black people with white people. I try to help people in general understand because I can. I'm all right with doing it to a certain degree. People I love, I do that for.
So what would you ask of people who are already either married or in a committed relationship they are an interethnic relationship?
First. What would you ask?
Oof. What would I ask of them to do?
Yeah.
So step 1, create a safe space for the conversation. Step 2, have the conversation with the intention to simply understand their experience and their perspective. What would yours be?
Honestly, I got to think about it. I was listening to you. I think one thing, and I will say this for white people, because you say this a lot, and I appreciate it, is if you are talking with a Black person and you want to really understand, you have to be open to thinking that maybe all these years I was wrong.
Yep.
Maybe all this time that I was thinking this way, am I open to changing my mind? And not changing your mind like, oh, shifting gears and, like, oh, I thought it was red, but it's really blue. It's like you're talking about years of learning, years of the society molding you into thinking that you are this way. And now being open to taking and stripping all of that away and hearing what someone else has to say.
The challenge with that too, because I had to personally go through that process. The challenge with that is if you are open to it and you're starting to realize that you are thinking about society wrong or the way your mindset is as wrong, not only do you have to recognize that I've been wrong all these years, but you have to recognize there are people I have hurt because of this mindset.
Yes.
There is pain that I have caused directly because of the way that I think. That was an erroneous way of thinking. And you have to be able to deal with what that means, deal with the consequences and the shame, really. Like I had shame. I had embarrassment. I had shame because I had friends that I had hurt. I had family that I had hurt. I had church members that I had hurt out of my ignorance. And I had to bear the burden of that and the weight of that and accept it, but move forward. And that's not easy.
It's not.
But I think, to your point, that is a question that needs to be asked.
I agree. Well, it got real in here.
I'd say we got deep today.
We got deep today, y'all. Thank you so much for I guess sharing on both ends. It has been really good. We would love to hear what you guys have to say. Go to our YouTube, The Cole Life, and Instagram @ The Cole Life, and our new, well, I guess it'll still be new, but our new Let's Get Deep. What am I trying to say? Let's Get Deep Instagram, which is @ Let's Get Deep Pod _
Cool. I love it, guys. Thank you for hanging with us with this conversation. If you are still watching this at this point, that means you are actually interested in this conversation. You're willing to have the conversation, which I love. So I am very intrigued to see the comments and what spurs from this, but have a great day.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.